This is our third Saturday clinic, our second one in a row. Okay, I want to briefly just talk about a little bit of what we did last week, just to remind everyone. You should all remember, but we're going to kind of go over it quickly. So we talked about the AIDS as a whole, and then we separated the AIDS into 3 different categories, right? Our mind, our body, and the external AIDS, right? The external AIDS being spurs, the crop, the environment around you, towards the gate, away from the gate. Those are all AIDS externally. And then obviously our body AIDS, which is our leg, our hand, our core, our upper body angle, right? And then our mind aids, which is the biggest one, which tells everything else in our body what to do when we're riding, right? So moving on is we're going to still be talking about the aids this week, but we're going to add in a really big concept called resistance, right? So resistance is going to be the word that when you come out from this lesson, that's like the top of your list. That's what I want you to think about, right? So when we talk about resistance, if you just look up like the dictionary definition of resistance, it's the fact of going against something, right? Whether that be physically going against something or mentally going against something or emotionally going against something. In this case, all of those can go a little bit with the horses, right? So obviously the first thing I think about is resisting the horse physically when they're wrong, right? So if a horse wants to go out of position, or if they want to do something against what you're asking them to do, you would resist the horse until they give you the feeling of correctness that you wanted out of them in the first place, right? Do you want to add anything? So I think like putting it into a simple answer, a simple example, right? When you're riding around and all of these horses, all 3 of these horses get strong. They get excited to the jumps, right? So one of the biggest tools of resistance you all are going to use on these 3 horses is staying against them with your hand and leg until they stop wanting to pull against you in their mouth. That's kind of the first thing I think about with these horses, right? Well, why don't each of you explain to me?
Can I add a little bit just before we get going? Another way to look at resistance for horse training is that you have to have knowledge or vision of what's correct, no matter what it is, right? The balance of the horse, the pace for the horse, the track, right? All that stuff. And then the horse isn't going to do that on its own, is it? Any of that? Is it? Does the horse do that on its own? Track well? Do some horses know the course before you walk in? They don't. Okay? I'm giving you an example. So the vision or the correctness of riding has to be in your mind. That's why you want to study and watch and listen. Because then when you know, then you can, when a horse isn't correct, just like Natalie said, you use resistance, but here's the key. Resistance tells the horse where correct is. Then when you get to correct, you have to sustain it. So resistance shows where correctness is. Okay? You follow me? Okay. So then you're going to have exercises. That's what Natalie's going into now, are the exercises. But those are just exercises. You have to know where correctness is. You have to show through resistance or reward where correctness is. Now, if you want something like, we're going to use an example, your correctness, right? You want that horse to go forward, more very simple, right? So you leg it, or you crop, or you go forward, and then you totally let go. Is that horse going to stay right where you want it? Or is it going to just kind of decide how fast to go after you let go? He's just going to decide, right? So that's a problem with resistance that people don't understand. Resistance takes the horse to correctness. It's not the opposite. It's not let go, because now you held it, now you let go. That's a mistake a lot of people make, not understanding what resistance really is. Natalie, I want you to expound on that a little more before you give your exercise.
Yeah.
In your own words, because my words are different from your words.
Yeah, so I think going off of what Mickey said, with resistance, I want to go into thinking about each horse. And when you're riding your horse, they're, like Mickey said, they're not the ones that should be deciding what's going on under you, and they don't know what's going on under you. You have to portray to them what you want and what needs to happen, right? What that be any exercise, walking, trotting, carrying, anything. You're telling them what you want them to do. Now, things are going to happen, and they're going to want to maybe not listen to certain things. They're going to want to, they're not going to feel good about doing certain things, whether it's physically they have trouble doing it or mentally they don't want to do it. And that's where resistance comes in, right? It's a teaching aid that is used to tell them when they're wrong versus when they're right. And they feel that, right? So when they feel resistance, in their mind, that's, ooh, that feeling means I'm not doing something wrong, or I'm not doing something right. Right? So when they feel that tension or that resistance against them, whether that be with your hand, with your leg, with your core, with the exercise you're doing, when they feel resistance, that should tell them something isn't right with how I'm portraying what they're asking me on their back, right? And then when they get a feeling of softness or a feeling of a release in the resistance, that's a little bit of a, oh, that means I'm doing something right. That's what they wanted out of me, right? What goes wrong a lot with riders is they either resist all the time or they give all the time. And that's confusing to a horse because they don't understand what they should be doing versus not doing. Does that make sense? So,
No, let me finish. You're right on. I love what you said. Okay, so listen carefully now to what I'm going to say. When do you have resistance and then give the opposite? When someone or a horse is not as silly, a baby. A baby better not touch the fire, right? And you tell them they go reach for it. Don't touch the fire. But that's not ultimately what you want. But in that situation, like if you're on a green horse, which these two girls have ridden green horses, and you leg and it sulks, and you leg and hit, and you do let them go forward, maybe too much, because they're in the baby stage. But that's not the end of resistance, see? And that's where people think, okay, I let go. Okay, I put my heels down. That's like, if that's all the way you think, then you're very novice. You know what I mean? And your horse is very novice. So we're always producing resistance to correctness. And sometimes that is let go. But most times it's not, especially at your 3 levels. Okay, you're way past that. That was like, that's what Izzy teaches. Okay, does that make sense?
yes.
And then I'm done. Because I just want to make sure that we understand resistance. Because when you guys are teaching now, that you're going to have to hear what they're saying. Because all they can do is share their knowledge of horses with you. And then they give you the realm, the vision. This is good, this is not. Now you have to. You know what I mean? Now, there's times where if I've said lengthen to get the 5 when on stride 1 and you don't do it, and I go again, and then the 3rd time I might say, let go and go forward, because you put yourself in the box of being a novice. But if you're like where you guys are now, you would incrementally open to get the 5, right? And your resistance would be the leg, and then your correctness would show them how much to open, right? Okay, now I'm not going to keep going on and on, but these are really principles that make a rider great. When they really conceptualize this, instead of just doing, which you guys are good at now, all 3 of you, instead of just doing, what is the result you want? You understand that? That's what I'm getting at. And it's not just the opposite. The opposite of resistance is not just not go. Just hope. It's not that anymore, okay?
So it's a continuum, right?
That's good.
It's a continuum, and you can almost think of it on a scale from 1 to 10, where 0 to 10, no resistance versus really hard resistance. I think this lesson has to be one of my favorite of all time in the discussion here, because I think this is so key to good riding in a holistic manner. And kind of taking back to how we were talking about the mind and then connecting those thoughts to your body parts. We definitely want to continue with that. When Mickey says knowing the correctness of how you want your horse to go, what's knowing? It's here, right? So if you know, you've got to tell your body parts how much, what degree to resist or to add pressure, right?
Now, with all that being said, I want to send you guys out on an exercise that is a very universal exercise that you can get a lot done with this on the flat. Do any of you know where I'm going with this? What exercise I'm going to send you out and do? A figure eight, right? Because there's a lot you can do in a figure eight. There's straight lines, there's a little curve, you have one going away from the gate, you have one going towards the gate, right? And I want you to go on the figure eight, and you're just starting on the flat, but I want you guys to, on your own, open and close the trot at the figure eight and add some transitions and just basically start thinking about where your horse wants to resist or where you guys maybe resist them before they need resistance. That's as simple as it's going to get to start, is go out on your figure eight, right? And now it's just the beginning of the lesson. You're just starting to think about your horse and you're starting to figure out everything that they kind of want to lean towards on the flat and maybe something that you guys, habits you have on the flat that affect how you think about resistance. Does that make sense? So let's all go out. But I'm looking at Destiny and I think she has a very connected seat and leg and a very connected hand. And Bill is a little more round than everyone else and he's taking bigger steps. And I really like the way Destiny is going about starting this lesson on resistance because she's saying, I'm going to connect with all my aids, my hand, my seat, my leg, and I'm connecting to the horse on all aspects. And I can tell she's thinking and experimenting on how her horse is responding to her aids at the walk. And then I go to Torin and I see she's got a looser hand and a looser leg. And while Diddy looks very happy and keen, she's not really thinking about how the resistance is going to be incorporated into her flat work. I think she's just kind of thinking about, oh, I'm going to let my horse walk around nice. He seems happy. But as soon as the lesson furthers and you're going to need resistance, he's not going to know how to handle it because you're not starting to introduce it now. And then I think, I'm looking at Stella and I think she's I think got to listen to me talk about Destiny and Torin, so she's thinking, well, I don't want to start loose and slow and relaxed, so I'm going to start adding my leg into hand gradually and seeing how Cheerio reacts to this feel. Because you can't just go from 0 to 100 with all these horses, right? You want to gradually teach them what you want. And I see Stella gradually adding a little more pressure, a little more resistance, and feeling how he responds to that pressure at the walk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then, like for me, I just work around it because she can't handle it all.
Yeah.
But she just won't do it.
Yeah.
So then how do you think we should deal with this another day?
Yeah.
We'll talk about should we make her do stops and starts and forward and wheels and say you don't have enough angle on the shoulder and because then she can't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I go about it a different way when I get him forward. I know how to orchestrate a lesson to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like, what should we teach as teachers who teach each other how to teach better? Like, another thing you could do is you put someone else on and show that.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Show him what she does.
Right.
I'm not going to do it today. But
right.
Now do what you do, Nat.
Okay.
And be more like you were saying the gray horses.
Yeah.
That's another way.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But that's what's frustrating for me as a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough. So, we can talk about that another day in a meeting.
Got it.
Okay, how we're going to deal with it.
Anything you'd like to add to start?
So right now, maybe it needs some sort of top or chain range or bottom range.
She doesn't have one.
Oh.
It's a converter.
And the only other thing is, Cheerio's not something great. Like she uses her 4 aids not continuously.
Yeah.
It goes shoulder in for no reason, or it goes this way.
When you want to take over,
Okay.
because I don't, what I do is I don't have my cat.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you say to yourself, see, what I'm looking for is someone to
Right.
it's like I told me
Yeah.
maybe, that one, I'm curious, maybe she will know.
Yeah.
That's when you have kind of
Yeah. 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 Good. Now, so watching you guys go around on the flat, and I'm going to talk to each one of these horses because they're all different horses, right? And I think there's a lot of different types of resistance, right? There's resistance going forward and back. There's resistance laterally side to side. There's a lot of different ways you can go about resistance. And I'm looking at, I'll start with Stella on the flat, right? I think you have a lot of great resistance in your elbow and your leg, keeping him really using suspension and pushing from behind. But I'm noticing that the resistance is lacking on the lateral movement when you're coming across the diagonal, right? So you have a very straight line across the diagonal, and I think, wow, she's doing a great job of resisting when he wants to lean on her in the mouth or resist your leg when he doesn't want to go forward. But I think as you're doing that, he's getting a little bit crooked in his body across the diagonal, right? He's a little bit wanting to move his haunch one way and then his shoulder the other way. So now I'd think about resistance as in, where does he want to resist my leg laterally? Where does he want to go crooked when I'm trying to make him go straight? And think about that. Because let's say you're coming across the diagonal and you think, man, he keeps wanting to swing that shoulder to the left, or he keeps wanting to swing his haunch out to the right. Feel that and resist when he wants to come out of position, and then relax when he wants to track straight, so that he knows, oh, I feel this lateral pressure in my leg when I keep wanting to swing my haunch out. But as soon as I track straight, she lets me track forward and nice. Does that make sense? Good. So start thinking about that in your flat work. Because the main thing with Cheerio is, of course, he's a little behind the leg to start, and then he leans a lot in the bridle, right? He gets strong. So you really focus on getting him light off the leg and light in the bridle. But then once you get that going, you got to work on how of transitions. The horses look like they're getting more warmed up now. You can throw in some canter.
One of the things I love about this exercise is that you have a straight line in the middle, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? And then you have the bending on the outside. And as you're doing a collection versus an extension, you can think about how that happens on a straight line versus on the bend, right? Stella, it's like when you want to go straight, use both legs together at the same time, right? Don't pull down, Torin. Good, Torin, good. I wholeheartedly was thinking the same thing that you were saying.
Yeah.
I think it's because she doesn't know when to stop, she doesn't know where it's correct.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
And I think if we keep coming back to find the correct spot, it's not just going to be a lesson on resistance
Yeah.
or relief or flow, but it's about the correctness.
Yeah.
And that's an very holistic part of it. And I think if she were just to allow herself to think it's a confidence thing with her, I think.
Yeah.
If she would allow herself to know and acknowledge where the correct part is.
Yeah,
Maybe she needs to be told, this is correct, this is correct.
yeah, yeah. Now, I was thinking maybe what we can do is, like, as an exercise for them is, like, we could come and jump the blue out of the short corner and then set, how many strides we want, a pull on the backside. And I think I should change the distance. And I think they should be able to know when to resist, like here, when to resist as they go forward, and play with the stride. That way they get a knowledge of the correct stride, like how they need to create a stride for the exercise while also incorporating how the resistance needs to go into play. And then if you have any other exercises after that to incorporate.
I think you don't have to change the fences themselves, but if you have a bending line, it's resistance is.
Well, we could do this, bending, and then to that.
To do that, or somewhere where they can count strides even more. Like I liked your oxer, or the blue to the oxer, and you can bend out and add. You can go straight and add.
Which oxer?
The blue to the black oxer.
Oh, that's a vertical. Sorry, that's why I was confused. Yeah.
But it's not just collection with the resistance.
Right.
So that's one exercise. But same for an exercise is doing like a bending line, thinking of a rollback and a jumper turn, and where do you go forward and where do you resist?
Yeah.
So if you had to jump like, something by itself and then do a quick rollback and gallop to something, and then you have to resist in front of the fence to be able to have them in a frame.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe those two exercises themselves, because it gets the lateral part and it gets the collection part.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Ooh, watch your spine, Torin.
That was great, Stella. Really nice.
Straight. Oh, good.
Really good, Destiny. Okay. I'm gonna go set that pull out. Do you have a prep? Here, we'll both go out. Crick out. Leave the blanket. Which one?
Resistant they are with the rain.
Yeah. Do you want to take? Yeah. No, yeah. You're good. Go ahead.
All right, come on over, everyone.
We have 45 minutes, so.
So how about I talk through it and you do the rain?
I'm good with that.
All right, let's have you stop right there. And Torin, why don't you come stand facing us? Facing us. All right, so when we talk about the resistance in the reins, we're talking about a scale of 1 to 10, right? And we want to have an example of what we mean by 1 through 10. We're not going to go through each number, but we want you to be able to understand what a 10 is in resistance of the rein, and what is a 1, and what is a 5. How about those three? You want to work with her reins?
Yeah.
And she's going to take her hands right near the bit, like she's the horse, or she's the rider.
I'm going to come
So
up.
you're
So.
the rider, you're the horse.
Oh, do you want?
So I usually go this way.
Got
So
it.
hold your rein. Okay, go ahead. All right. So Natalie's riding, and she's got Torin, and Torin's the bit, and Natalie's going to use a medium resistance. What's a medium resistance? Now you have to stay against it so you can feel it. Okay, close your fingers. Okay, and now a number 1 resistance. Okay, do you see how she's letting go slowly? She didn't let go all of a sudden, did she? It's not an all or nothing. What's a 10 resistance, Natalie? All right, do you feel that? You ever have that on horse?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Okay. Should we do it with Stella? Good job.
Little child. Oh, why don't you come up here?
Come on up.
We'll just walk straight.
One resistance for one horse may not get that resistance for another. Okay? So let's start with that medium resistance. And you got to keep your fingers closed.
Too much.
So right with your hands.
Just keep your hands still. I'll do the resistance. Like you're the horse's mouth. I'm the rider making a resistance. Does that make sense?
So you've got a medium or a 5 resistance. Let's go to a 2. Slowly goes to 2 because it's a continuum. It's not an all or nothing. And let's now go to the 10. All right.
Hold.
Pull you right out of the center. Here's your spine, Stella.
There you go.
Physical spine.
Little.
Let's go to a 1. And then let's go to a 9.
Keep pulling a little bit.
Feel that?
There.
You
Good.
feel how you're still coming forward a little bit?
Yeah.
That's you're going to use your leg and your spine and your seat bone. Okay. One more time. Are you good, Natalie?
One more.
All right.
Think.
From a 3 to an 8. Good.
Keep that lower back. There.
Have a little bit of flexion, but resistance is not letting your elbows forward.
Got it? Good job.
You're up.
Come into my office.
We're trying to do is understand where's the correct resistance. And we're artificially showing, let's say, a 2 on resistance. And you're keeping your fingers closed. Now Natalie's going to use a 9 resistance.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see her body? How strong she was with the lower back? It's barely moved. That barely moved. Love that. How about a 1? And see how her hands come back slowly? I love that too. How about a 10? And he's talking.
Flashbacks.
Okay, and now a 5. We wouldn't want to go from a bucking first to a 1, right? So maybe a 5. Oh, he's bucking again, do 10. Right? And see how her body is working with that?
Bill was like, what the?
Awesome. All right, I'm going to give it back to Natalie, and we're going to start the jump.
Okay. I'm going to walk and talk while I set this exercise, okay?
And walk and get ready to jump.
So basically what we're going to do is we'll start on our left lead. We're going to be coming out of the short corner to this blue jump right here. Now, I'm going to be setting a pole on the back side of the jump, and I'm going to have you guys watch me walk it, okay? And you're going to watch me walk it, and you're going to jump in, and you're going to land, and you're going to ride landing side to the pole, depending on how I set this line. Now, I could have the line set steady, I could have it medium, I can have it forward. All 3 of those things are going to need resistance, but all in a different manner, right? So you guys are going to practice the different types or the different levels of resistance through this line, while also having to keep in mind how the stride needs to be correct through the corner in order for the horses to make these adjustments properly, right? You could be thinking, I'm going to nail this exercise because I watched her walk it, I know how it rides, I know that I need to land and steady or land and flow, but you also have to keep in mind the quality of canter through the corner, and that quality of canter needs to be ready, the horse needs to be ready to adjust to whatever you need to do in this line. Does that make sense? Now also the exercise could expose, ooh, my horse doesn't like when I resist here. My horse doesn't like when I resist there. I'm hoping this exercise exposes a little bit of that and opens your minds to think about, oh, this is what goes wrong in the show ring when I course. This is where the horse doesn't really want to accept my aids. Oy. Did we all watch? Okay. Now I'm going to make this a little bit more impressive just to start. Maybe go up a few. I'm going to make this jump a little more impressive just because I want you to have to feel a little bit of what you feel in the ring or while you're jumping a course, not just, well, sometimes the horses don't light up very much over just a pull, or sometimes they don't light up very much until the jump gets a little bigger, right? So this is going to be like I want you to jump it like a real jump, not just a pull or a little warm-up jump. Get the horse really tracking properly, get their stride adjustable, and have them be ready for whatever you need to ask them in the middle of this line. They're going to be ready for it. They're not going to be surprised. Does that make sense? Okay, let's all go out. Yeah, that's true.
So it's set at a really long 3 or a really short 4.
Well, that's what they're going to have to figure out. Yeah. Good. Now, Torin looks like she's ready to go, but I'm just going to put out there that I don't want you just to pick up the canter and go to the jump right now. We all just took a break and we talked about a lot of things and we did a few exercises while the horses were standing. And I think if you just pick up the canter and go to this exercise right now, your horse is not going to be ready for any type of resistance or training you're going to put into them right now. They need to be ready.
Or I can, and then.
I mean, I think it's fine. Yeah. Good. Okay, whenever you guys are ready. I know. I'd be watching Torin. Pretty good, Torin. Now, I'll talk about it in a sec. Nice, Destiny. Maybe we put the jump up a little bit, and then I shorten it. Great. Really good, all of you guys. Now, 2 factors are going to be changing right now. The jump height, and I'm going to move this pull. I made it a lot harder for you guys on both options, right? Now you should be thinking about, well, I made the jump height a little bigger, so they're going to maybe get a little more excited. They may land a little farther out. I also made the pull quite a bit shorter, right? So you're going to need a whole new level of resistance when you land the jump and in between to the pull, or else they're going to get there early, right? And I know all 3 of these horses are going to start getting a little stronger as we go. So keep that in mind. All right.
We have a third change.
Oh, and a third change. Bush. Now, all 3 of these horses are very brave. I think we all know that. Now, for anyone in the audience who doesn't know, that's something spooky we put under the jump, right? When you have something spooky under the jump, sometimes you have to ride the horses a little stronger with your leg and seat in order to get them to cover the ground to the distance without feeling scared. Now, that also makes the line difficult because then they're going to get a lot stronger on the backside. Great, Torin. Now, Torin did a good job of really controlling her body over the top of the jump and on the lower part of the arc. Because if you guys throw your body up the neck and then land in front of them, It's a lot harder to get your horses back in position for this short 4. Good, D. It's hard on him. Yeah. Good, now let's come on over. Do you want to take over this? Yeah.
All right. So, torn between the flat and what you had to do to ride next to that trailer that was spooky. What, between a 1 and a 10, how much resistance did you have with your hand over there? In the corner to the fence? A 7. Yeah. Did you have that 7 anywhere on your flat? No. Why?
Well, I try to I really do try to leave it alone because we'll get upset.
Yeah. If you do too much.
Too much.
Yes.
But, I've spent a lane with Natalie. I need to fight with you a little bit.
No, I don't want you to fight with them. Okay, so that's extremes of 1 to 10. Fighting with them is a 10, and 1 is leaving them alone. And we don't want you to do either, honestly. I mean, unless there's an issue that you have to resist quite a bit, but we want you to know what is correct. It's that happy place I always talk about. That's what's correct, okay? Destiny, how did you feel around that turn coming to it?
I felt a little bit
Yep.
not like I'm gonna bolt through, but kind of I looked and I kind of nervous about it.
Where?
Right as I
Yep.
right before the trailer. He started
Yep.
shooting.
Yep.
So I kind of had to instead of retreat to gather his attention.
Yep.
And
Yeah, he looked like he bid once he left the turn after the trailer, and the trailer really did put number 4, different situation in here, huh? And when he did that, how did you resist? 1 rein? Was he going sideways or was he just going forward? All right. Got it. Got it. I think having a little more consistent aids, like we're saying to Stella, if you want them to go forward, both legs, and then you adjust one versus a little bit more with that pressure, if you will, okay? Stella, how did you feel coming around the turn? Yeah, and do you think going slow is what you should be doing back here in the turn? No, and it's a little spookier, huh? But that's a good thought. And what did you do in response to that thought? Ooh. I'm sorry, you got a 5?
No, like a 5 resistance to
5
get the deep one.
resistance, got it. Yeah, it looked like he was inconsistent in his pace all the way through the turn. He changes. And sometimes if he changes and you over resist or over pressure, it's gonna make him go this other direction too much. So you remember when she was holding on to your reins and we said go from like a 10 to a 1? She didn't go like that all of a sudden, huh? She was seeing which way, oh, maybe I'm gonna have to take one versus the other, right? One versus the other, got it? So that consists now when you work on consistent pace, consistent application of the aids. We're either resisting with the aids or we're putting pressure to go forward as a resistance, okay?
One more time and then your exercise. Yeah, I was gonna make it forward next. Yeah. Now, watch Anita, see what she's moving.
more still, but I'm moving out.
You could do whatever, but unless you wanna, Okay. Good, now she only moved the pole slightly in, right? But she's having you do a completely different striding now, right? So instead of the collected 4, you guys are going to be landing and doing the more fluid 3. Now, when you guys go to do the more forward striding, are we just a lean and a let go? Are we doing a sit back and drive? Or are we going to stay in the middle and incorporate leg into hand as we open gradually? Yeah, right? The last one I said, right? Because you're going to want to, the horses have been doing the last 2 lines of very resistant work. They're going to maybe be a little bit afraid to go forward when you land because they're going to think, woo, the last 2 lines we did were very steady, very collected. So I would go on the flop before you're jumping. I'd teach your horse how to open gradually without a let go or without a chase, right? They should say, okay, a little more leg with a little hand. They need to open, not let go and leg for them to open. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go out. What? Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh my God. You should explain that.
So one of the things we're going to be changing the striding here from very collected to a little more forward. It's not running, but really the key to this is before you get to the jump, right? And so you guys know about Rodolfo? Okay. You don't remember Rodolfo?
I don't think they ever learned Rodolfo.
All right. So to be able to get your pace in the corner, I want you to imagine you have Rodolfo, his name is. He's an imaginary first fence. Okay? And you're going to think, let's say put him, let's say right where the gate is. And I want you to find a distance, draw a line in your head, and find a distance to Rodolfo. Swear to God. So this came out from first fence-itis, which is inflammation of the first fence. Everybody mucks up their first fence. So if you give yourself an imaginary first fence, then this is your second fence. Mind games, you guys. It's all about the mind. If you can be prepared to jump down there, you're going to make this a really good second fence. All right? You've got a funny name so you can remember. It's kind of like Rudolph, but with an O.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year. Oh my God, it's been so long since I've thought about Rodolfo.
Here we go. So she's not doing it because she's, good.
Good job.
Yay, she wasn't ready for Rodolfo. Come on, come on.
Torin, before you go to this jump, I want you to think about the fact that your horse is a rusher. And if you come into a short line and have to move up, what's that going to make him do? A long line. If you come into a long line short, you're going to have to move up a lot. That's going to make him rush a lot more than if you have more pace and let him back up. Good. I think Destiny just chipped Rodolfo.
Oh, she's going to do it again. Good to know.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
He's a funny little guy. Oh. I'm going to leave it for Stella, and then we'll make it longer.
I think if they do it long, then they go back to short.
That's true.
Put a medium.
Really nice, Stella. Really nice. Now, do you guys notice how we really didn't change the line that much? between the 3 and the 4. The main difference was how you guys created the canter through the corner, and your mind, you were thinking, I got to create a canter that's going to make this line easier. It's not just, well, I'm going to ride it the same and hope to God that the horses adjust. No, you want to create a horse that's ready to go forward, ready to come back, really listening to all your aids, and then you'll be able to create whatever distance you want. Because we changed the line, the pull. I mean, if you look at the line on the ground, we changed a lot, but we only changed it by a foot or 2 feet at a time, right? It wasn't like we created 6 extra feet of room for you or 6 less feet. We barely changed it, but the way you guys created the stride and the way you thought about how you needed to resist the stride in certain places made the 3 and the 4 like no big deal, right? Do you want to do your next exercise?
Destiny. All right, so we're going to go on to the last exercise here. And what I'd like you to do is we're going to do a little bit of forward and collection using that resistance. I want you to come through that same turn. And then I want you to come right, go forward, and go around this vertical at a gallop or an extended canter. And then I want you to collect right where she's at. And I want you to jump this oxer. So what we're doing is we're going forward and giving them freedom through the turn, not full freedom, like a 3 maybe, and extending that stride, almost like it's a jump off, okay? So stay close to this vertical. I don't want you to go all the way in the turn. And then after this, depending on how they are, just make a nice circle and stop, all right? Go ahead. So forward, 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 collect, collect, collect. We want to see how you use your resistance to do that. That chain on his mouth must drive him nuts.
Yeah, let me figure.
I did. So you don't have to go to the ends of the ring, huh? The next time we're going to shorten it, and we're going to go in front of the vertical.
We're going to be your markers for when you need to start your collection. Right here?
So we'll come from here.
Perfect.
Extend, 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 start collecting in the turn. And so how I can do that,
Perfect.
when they come to us, they should be ready to jump.
We are the gateways of the change in stride.
Circle, that wasn't very forward, was it? Now, that doesn't mean go a 10 forward, does it? Is that the way you do in the jump off? Forward. Collecting, collect, collect, collect. Nope. Okay, so Torin is not doing the exercise that we created here. This is a going forward, extending the canter across the blue one into the turn.
Louder.
Louder.
Okay.
Sorry. All right, this is our second and last jumping exercise. Okay, thank you. And we're doing the blue fence without going all the way down, and we're doing it at more of an extended canter like we're in a jump off. So the resistance is with pressure, with the leg more, and then having enough resistance in the balance to have the correct impulsion at that extended canter, right? And we're going to extend the canter after the blue, and then as we turn, we're going to start collecting. And then we're going to do a very collected resistance with backing up leg, resistance with the hand, and we're going to have a short stride to the orange oxer, okay?
Yep.
Whoop. Better, definitely better. And she did that collection gradually, but maybe she could have collected a little bit more in the turn. Good job, Destiny. I love the extension on the first fence. Destiny's horse is a little inconsistent. She's doing such a good job holding him together and keeping his stride consistent.
Now, Stella, I'd circle because is that the canter you had when you won that classic at Temecula? That's not the canter you had. You want a forward canter. Sorry, didn't want her to go.
Circle again.
Oh.
Collect, add, collect, add. Oh, Stella. Now that was the one we were looking for over here. She could have had a little bit more leg to keep the impulsion, but she collected through the turn and she collected on the straight line and added. And that's what we were looking at for the resistance of the aids. All right. Should we do it again? And I think we should continue to go around the blue so you can continue to extend. I don't want anyone slipping on a short turn. I would do the same thing, but Torin, let's really almost not exaggerate running, but I want you to exaggerate Rodolfo, okay? Exaggerate in the turn, just by this much is exaggerating, huh? But don't do nothing, okay? And don't take back to the vertical, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is he gonna go flying afterwards?
He should be fine.
She should be able to compete, right?
Yeah.
So her horse is going to get fresh and maybe bolt, and she's going to be ready to resist. Oh, yeah. But she's taking back here, and we're supposed to be going forward. Maybe she thinks there's a problem with the lead change. Collect, collect. Oh, good.
Quit with that.
Yeah, quit with that. Let's quit with that, Torin. Good job. We can save the extended gallop for the show ring sometimes, huh? We don't want to set them off, but you have to practice it before you get to the show ring sometimes, right? And she's relaxing resistance of her seat there. I don't know if you saw that, but he sure, oh my goodness. He sure liked that. And the minute he bopped, her brain was right there saying, no, sit back, I'm there. And she was right there solid.
That was funny.
I love that. You're welcome. Oh, hang on, sweetie.
Oh.
Hang on. Oh, he needs a little
turnout.
You are the consummate rodeo girl here. That was pretty amazing.
Wow, Bill.
Wild Bill? Is that his name?
Wild Bill now. No more show
It
Bill.
didn't come off. She's got glue on her saddle, I think. Not many people can hang on.
Go
to
ahead,
that
Stell.
When they buck that high. This one can jump big, I think, because he bucked so high. I think it'd be nice if you just did a medium. Well, let's let Stella go.
A medium canter.
Yeah, right? No bucking medium. That's it, Stella. Oh, there she is. She's got a good eye. Look at that eye, and she's continuing to come forward. She wants to win, and she wants to do the test right, so now she's got to add.
Wow.
Oh, Stella, that's great. Wonderful. Should we put that?
Yeah.
Want to give her any last comments?
Stella, I thought that was great because
Hang on a minute. Or actually, canter all the way around.
I think you really want to be correct all the time, but sometimes you need to go outside the box and open a can of worms so that you can practice reeling him back in, right? So I think we all know if you just come in with a medium canter, you'll be able to get him back easily, right? Because we practice that. But this exercise was designed to really open a can of worms so that you can really feel what resistance is about when you need it. Does that make sense? And I thought your last one was much, much better because you really got him going forward and you really practice balancing after feeling that forward rhythm.
Excellent job, Stella. Oh, he says, let me run. Oh, we're collecting. Oh, now that was a really good example of adding an extra stride and keeping the balance and the impulsion correct. That was a really good example of that. Did you feel like that? Yeah. Wow, some horses will not get deep like that and still have the impulsion to rock back and jump. Great job. Let's go with that. All right, come on over. Oh, no.
Okay, girls. Oh,
Got it.
hello.
Uh,
Okay, so why don't you tell us what you got out of that lesson, that you want to bring back to your next lesson? You know?
yeah.
I think that what I got out of it is that I can't just go from say 0 to 100.
Wait, hang on, Steve, I can't hear very well.
You have to talk.
Are you?
So I think that I got out of I think that I got out of the lesson that I can't go from 0 to 100, and then I have to use like both of my legs when I'm resisting, and not just one or the other or no leg. And I, especially with him, because he'll go forward, but then he won't.
Good in your turn.
Okay, now, I how I like questions because I think it makes us clarify, right? You know that. Okay, so what was the lesson about today? If someone, you walk out here and they say, hey, Stella, what was that lesson about? What are you going to tell them?
The lesson was about resistance and how that was like the main thing.
Yeah.
And how it's a continuous
Yeah. And then I'm going to ask you, well, why don't we give it to her then, because too many questions to one person is not great. You guys did a great job, though, taking the lesson. I'm really pleased. You okay? Yeah, so tell me now, she answered very well. As far as resistance goes, what is resistance in horse training? How would you describe it? Because we went through it a lot, and now you felt it. So tell me for horse training, how do you think of resistance? What kind of thing is it for you?
I think for me, resistance, like you said, the hand, feet, and the legs, the different levels.
So, those are, let's see, the hand, the seat, and the leg, those are aids. But that's not resistance. So what's the level thing you were talking about?
Like how much resistance you like do a little half halt or just fully like I just think it's a hand resistance.
Yeah, you're defining, yeah, that's pretty good. Well, how would you define resistance like we talked about at the beginning?
I define it really like a part of your like your aids can make resistance weight resistance.
Okay, let me ask you another thing quick. What's the purpose of resistance?
To correct the horse.
Isn't that what we talked about? But first we have to have a vision of what's correct, a feeling, a concept, right? Then we use resistance to do what? Show the horse correctness, right? You resist them until they're correct. And then you don't let them go, but then you show them this is where we want to be, right? Like you had to resist them when he bucked, didn't you? I mean, it took a second, but, right? But that's a really extreme, but it's still an example of resistance, right? Makes sense? Okay.